to be from amongst the muttaqeen. We strive to be from amongst the people of taqwa and the mukhlasin. Be informed and reminded that the more we will be tempted and tested with evil. And be reminded that those who are striving to be obedient to Allah Azza wa Jal and be slaves of Allah who are in servitude to their Creator will always be targets for the enemies of Allah from amongst other humans and jinn and shayateen. And be reminded, my dearly beloved brothers and sisters, that our greatest enemy that Allah Azza wa Jal informed us about in the Quran will never cease and never stop looking for weak and innocent victims. And particularly in this month of October, in this fall season, where many of Shaitan's signs and symbols are clearly visible right in front of our eyes. Brothers and sisters in Islam, since the beginning of this month of October and the fall season being upon us, we find many businesses, many houses, many schools, many other places in our communities are now being decorated with jack-o'-lanterns, with skeletons, with witches, with scarecrows, spider webs, and other shaitanic and satanic and demonic looking figures. Many of those who may not be educated, or many of those who may be naive and inattentive, engage in many of the activities during this season and in this last week of October. They take part in activities in which they glorify mankind's biggest enemy. Some deify shaitan, shayateen, demons, and jinn while not even realizing it. For some of our parents and families who may be new to the United States of America or haven't researched the history of this upcoming evil night of Halloween, which falls on October 31st. Some of those families and parents who may be new to the United States may think that Halloween is just a night of fun, a night of amusement, a night of tricks and pranks, or trick-or-treating, or an innocent going door to door for candy, or an innocent night of mischief, egging someone's house or cars, and hiding behind trees and playing hide and seek in the graveyard, scaring each other, or entering haunted houses, and maybe participating in some Halloween parties and bobbing for apples. So we need to learn, brothers and sisters in Islam, to not be so naive. We need to learn to educate ourselves, first and foremost, about Allah, about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his blessed companions, and learn about the customs and practices of the people in the society and in the communities that we live in. So for the cognizant Muslim, the intelligent Muslim, it should be clear that Halloween and the symbols related to it is all about the glorification of demons, witches, ghosts, jinn, death, and shayateen. So my question to all of my beloved and respected guests with us this afternoon: should a Muslim partake and participate in activities that glorify shaitan and shayateen, that glorify jinn, that glorify demons, the dead, death, and ghosts? and teach people to fear other than Allah Azza wa Jal. When Rabbul Alameen, Khaliq al-Samawati wal-Ard, when Allah Azza wa Jal, the Lord of the universe, told us that Shayateen and Shaitan and his allies are our clear enemies. So we need to identify some of Shaitan's temptations and stay far away from following his footsteps, as Allah Azza wa Jal, He told us in the Quran and commanded us and called out to us. We need to be able to recognize Shaitan's footsteps, even if he adorns them for us with candy, with sweets, with popcorn balls, candied apples, Halloween costume parties, scarecrows, free food, and the likes. Respected brothers and sisters, when Allah Azza wa Jal called out to us to enter into Islam completely, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu dkhulu fi silmi kaffah, O you who believe, enter into Islam completely. Immediately after that, Allah prohibited us from something. And we know whenever Allah calls out to the believers in the Quran, saying, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, then we know that that which comes after it is either in order to do something good or a prohibition to stay away from evil. So we see right after Allah calls the believers to enter into Islam completely, He first orders them to enter into Islam completely, and then right after it prohibits us from following the footsteps of Shaitan. And then Allah emphasizes that indeed Shaitan is a clear enemy, an open enemy for all of us. So what happens, brothers and sisters, that if we and when we enter into Islam, but we don't abandon following Shaitan's footsteps? Allah tells us in another verse, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, la tattabi'u khutuwat ash-shaytan, wa man yattabi' khutuwat ash-shaytan fa innahu ya'muru bil fahsha'i wa munkar. O you who believe. Now right after that, Allah immediately commands the believers and prohibits them from doing something. Do not follow the footsteps of Shaitan. And then Allah explains, well, this is what happens when you follow the footsteps of Shaitan. That Shaitan will order you to do shameful acts and evil deeds. So Shaitan and his allies, they will try to order all human beings to do shameful, immoral acts and have immoral practices and immoral beliefs which go against the teachings of Islam. And this is why on Halloween night in many cities and states throughout the United States and many other countries throughout the world, many call Halloween night the night of mischief or the night of vandalizing. And this is because the Shayateen, the demons, and those devilish human beings who order people to be disobedient to Allah and harm other human beings and their properties, and the jinn have beautified these heinous acts for them, making them think that these things are out of fun and play. So we need to be wary. We need to be cautious and cognizant, my brothers and sisters, that Shaitan's footsteps are subtly designed so that even the inattentive, negligent, and sometimes heedless mu'min, the heedless believer or Muslim, may sometimes give in to Shaitan and his misguidance. The way that Shaitan works, he will first give the suggestion, trying to convince you that Halloween and the activities associated with it are not harmful at all. And through various processes, Shaitan and his allies, they carry on making these small suggestions but at slightly a higher level of immorality. But since the process is a step-by-step process, the person does not see any sin in his actions, thus eventually becoming ensnared in a lofty degree of sin. So Shaitan is not going to come to you immediately and tell you to disbelieve in Allah, or immediately tell you to not pray, or immediately to tell you not to pay zakat, or immediately tell you not to make hajj. But he is going to take you step by step farther away from Allah Azza wa Jal until you yourself decide to do those things. So Shaitan's goal is to make a person perpetrate a sinful action of such a high degree that because of that sin, the person's whole life before and after him is ruined, having no value, and ultimately bringing the person down with him to the depths of hell and then freeing himself from that individual and his actions. And the ultimate goal of Shaitan is to make a person associate partners with Allah, to glorify other than Allah, to be afraid of other than Allah, to pay tribute to other than Allah, to magnify other than Allah, as we see many people doing in many of the customs, activities, and things that take place on this evil night of Halloween. So be informed, brothers and sisters, that Shaitan and his agents from amongst the humans and jinn will come to us and try to adorn falsehood, try to beautify sin, try to beautify wearing costumes, try to beautify Halloween parties, try to beautify having bonfires on that night. They make these things look shiny, looking fun, looking innocent, appealing to the eyes and the emotions and feelings, tasting sweet, so that Shaitan and his allies snare you with their hook, then reel you in slowly and put you in the net of major sins, which may lead eventually somebody out of the fold of Islam and then eventually into the hellfire. Allah Azza wa Jal, He tells us in the Quran, when Shaitan and Allah Azza wa Jal were having a dialogue, and Shaitan said to Allah Azza wa Jal, قال رب بما أغويتني لأزينن لهم في الأرض وَلَأُغْوِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. My Lord, in the same way you allowed me to stray and you banished me, I will surely adorn things, and I will strongly adorn things. I will disguise them in such a way that they won't be able to recognize them. I will surely adorn things for them on earth, and I will mislead them all together. So my respected brothers and sisters in Islam, when we take a moment to reflect, observe, ponder, and research, we will come to find out that Halloween is based upon satanic, evil practices and rituals. Halloween is a night filled with imitating demonic figures, celebrating death, glorifying and calling upon the dead, glorifying and calling upon witches, and participating in witchcraft, and believing in superstitions and other khurafat that are foreign to Islam and the practices of the Muslims. So Halloween, brothers and sisters, it goes back more than 2,000 years to ancient Ireland and was observed by the ancient Celtic or Celtic Druids, who founded a festival called the Festival of Samhain. And Samhain was the New Year's Day of the Wathaniyin, of the pagan Celts or Celts of Ireland. and it was also known as the Day of the Dead. It was a time that was believed that the souls of those who died during the year were allowed access into the land of the dead, or the day that the souls mingled with the living. And if we were to travel back into time, back to ancient Ireland, and go back to a place called Oweenagat Cave, if we were there, we would find a field with a large hill or mound occupied by sheep. Today, these livestock wander freely, chewing the grass beneath their feet. However, had those sheep, or even us, been in that same location 2,000 years ago, both of us and the sheep would have been terrified by the sounds of those individuals who were known as the Druids, who used to chant these different hymns and songs, summoning the dead from their graves and the evil spirits that they believed were in that area. And they would dress themselves in demonic costumes and sacrifice animals and sometimes young children to these Celtic demons that inhabited this nearby cave. And this place in Ireland was considered by the ancient Celts to be a passage between Ireland and its devil infested other world or underworld. And that's where the name Oweenagat is coined from, which means cave of the cats. And this was the actual birthplace of the Samhain festival and the ancient roots of Halloween. And it was far from the child friendly event that is commonly misunderstood amongst many of us living in the United States as of now. Halloween can also trace its origins and roots to a bloody and eerie ritual marked in Rathcrogan, a former Celtic centre buried beneath the farmland of Ireland's county called Roscommon, where many humans and animals were sacrificed more than 2,000 years ago. So back in that time, when paganism was the dominant religion amongst Ireland's majority Celtic people, it was here in this area called Rathcrogan that the Celtic New Year festival of Samhain or Samhain was born. And in the 1800s, the Samhain tradition was brought by Irish immigrants to the United States, where it morphed into the sugar-coated, overloaded American version of Halloween. So the ancient Celtic people, the Irish, the Scottish, and the Welsh, the festival called Samhain was considered and is considered by historians and scholars to be the origin of what is now known Halloween. Samhain was the New Year's Day of the pagan Celts. It was also known as the Day of the Dead, a time when it was believed that the souls of those who had died during the year were allowed access into the land of the dead, or the day that the souls mingled with the living. And by the 19th century, and after reaching North America, many of the ancient Druids and Celts practices were replaced by witches' magic and sorcery, and eventually replaced by children's tricks, which gave birth to trick or treat. So these spirits of Samhain, once believed to be wild and powerful, were now recognized as being evil. And the spiritual forces that people experienced during this festival were noted to be real indeed, but they were manifestations of the Shayateen who misled people toward the worship of false idols, the worship of demons, the worship of saints, witches, and graves. And initially, when these Celts and Irish and Scottish and Welsh people migrated to America, many Christians who were already present in North America, when they were mingling with these new Irish immigrants and witnessed and observed their pagan satanic practices, many of them even rejected the practices associated with Halloween, including the representations of ghosts, vampires, and human skeletons, which are all symbols of the dead and of the devil and other evil creatures. And it must also be noted, brothers and sisters, to this day, many Satan worshippers, many of those who worship Shaitan and Shayateen, consider the evening of October 31st to be their most sacred night. And in the year 2024, we still find some of our non-Muslim neighbors, those who may be devout Christians, who have some similar beliefs and practices to the Muslims. They themselves continue to distance themselves from the paganistic, the satanic, the demonic festival and celebration of Halloween, and many of them do not participate in it at all. So why aren't we Muslims distancing ourselves from Shaitan when Allah clearly tells us in the Quran that he's our clear enemy? Why aren't we distancing our children and our families from these satanic principles and rituals when we have the haqq, we have the final revelation, we have the unaltered and unchanged book in the Sunnah? Why aren't we teaching our children about the evils of such celebrations and pagan rituals, beliefs, and practices if we claim to be following the truth? Also, did you know, brothers and sisters, that those who worship Satan and demons and worship Shaitan are actually pleased and happy by having our children dressed with demonic, evil, satanic costumes? The founder of the Church of Satan in New York, who goes by the name Anton LaVey, he said, by dressing up, either by wearing a costume or coloring oneself for Halloween, is tantamount to worshiping of the devil and glorifying Satan. And he considers it praise and glorifying of Shaitan and his allies. He also said that dressing up in demonic costumes signifies that you allow Shaitan to own you. And he went on to say that when you adopt these paganistic, satanic, evil practices, you are subconsciously dedicating yourself and your practices to the devil. And his statement is corroborated by another former Satanist by the name of John Ramirez, who said that when you dress up, even as an angel or a mermaid for Halloween, you give the devil, you give Satan and demons and evil jinn the rights to change your identity. And he further warned that there's a much darker reality in Halloween beyond costumes and candy. Halloween, brothers and sisters, is also the favorite time of year for witches or the advocates of Wicca. Wicca is the official religion of witchcraft. Wiccan adherents believe that on the night of October 31st, the separation of physical and spiritual realities is at its thinnest and least guarded. And so it's the best time for those who have special abilities, as they claim, to speak and communicate with the dead. and seek aid and assistance from the jinn and shayateen. Dearly beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, Alhamdulillah for Islam and being Muslim. The Muslim is one who should have a distinguished identity, one of a believer, a worshipper of the Creator, not a glorifier of Shaitan and his allies. A believer should avoid dressing up as devils, ghosts, ghouls, skeletons, witches, or even the dead. And our parents, and as parents, we should try to educate our children and teach them the dangers and evils that are associated with this Halloween night. Also, we shouldn't give anyone the opportunity to think that they own us, not the shaitan, nor any founder of a church of Satan, nor anything else in the creation, except the one who has created us, and that is Allah Azza wa Jal, the Most High. So when we allow our children to dress up in demonic costumes, we are empowering these worshippers of Shaitan and promoting their lifestyle, advocating their practices, furthering their beliefs, and imitating them and glorifying their practices and giving respect and honor to their evil way of life and their evil appearances. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum," that whoever resembles a people, then he is from them. If you resemble the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the companions, then inshallah you will be from amongst them. If you resemble devils, ghosts, witches, demons, ghouls, and people of evil, then you will be from amongst them. So it's upon us, brothers and sisters, to act and dress as believers at all times. Don't let the temptations of Shaitan, don't let the temptations of your neighbors, your friends, your colleagues at work, your classmates in school, coming in the form of candy, coming in the form of sweets and cupcakes or Halloween parties. Don't let these temptations of Shaitan deceive you and mislead you into resembling the way that they look and they act. And remember, brothers and sisters, that Shaitan is our clear enemy, who will never cease coming at us from the right, from the left, from the front, from the back, as Allah mentions in the Quran. He will do everything in his power to try to get you to disobey Allah or to do things that please him and displease Allah Azza wa Jal. So don't fall for his plots, his ploys, and his deceptions. Don't fall victim to him and his agenda during this last week of October. So we advise ourselves and our families and our beloved brothers and sisters who are parents and our young ones to avoid the practices associated with Halloween. Educate your children about Halloween, the dangers of it, the evils of it, and the beliefs and superstitions associated with it, and do not participate in any activities related to it. So, to sum up, brothers and sisters, we have about 15 minutes left. My advice and closing statements is that our Muslim parents who love the truth and care about their children should definitely not think about sending their kids out on Halloween night to trick or treat or participate in any types of events. And this is for a number of reasons. First and foremost, Halloween is one of the only days out of the year when our neighbors come to our door expecting to receive something. So give them the best thing. Give them the thing that will grant them success in the hereafter. Don't just give them a candy or a candied apple or popcorn ball. Give them Islam. Give them some dawah pamphlets. Give them some information about worshiping the Creator and not worshiping shaitan and demons and jinn. Give them a copy of the Quran. Invite them to the masjid so that they can learn about how to worship the Creator and avoid worshiping anything within the creation. So we need to stop justifying why it may be those who may have doubts and misconceptions and cannot handle the pressure of the society which they live in. They try to justify that celebrating Halloween is an innocent holiday. Hopefully, with our reminder today, there are no muddled lines or gray areas about it, that it should be clear to the believer with sound intellect and a clear and pure heart. A committed follower of Allah and one who truly loves the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would never think about celebrating Halloween or taking part in any of the activities associated with it, nor would they allow their loved ones, their friends, their colleagues to participate in it as well. And as we grow closer to Allah and gain more knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah, we will come to realize many things and questions that we should ask ourselves if we may have some doubts about letting our children or youth or anyone participate in Halloween. The first is that Allah Azza wa Jal, He is Al-Hayyu Al-Qayyum. Allah is the ever-living, the everlasting. He never sleeps, He never slumbers, He never gets tired. But Halloween focuses on death. Halloween focuses on the dead. Halloween focuses on graveyards. So should a Muslim celebrate or participate in a holiday or a night where people decorate their front yards with tombstones, jack-o'-lanterns, devils, ghouls, and ghosts? Secondly, the Quran and the Sunnah are both illuminating lights and remove darkness and ignorance. So is celebrating a dark holiday that glorifies darkness and demons and witches and witchcraft, is this something that families of light and guidance should be participating in? Thirdly, Halloween is based upon fearing other than Allah Azza wa Jal, fearing demons, witches, ghosts, and the dead. Should we raise and teach our children to fear someone or something other than Allah? Should we participate in parties and celebrations that has fear of other than Allah at its very foundation? Number 4, practicing witchcraft is clear-cut, decisive disbelief and is abhorred by Allah, detested by our Creator, and takes someone out of the fold of Islam. Shouldn't a holiday such as Halloween that glorifies witchcraft and witches in the Wiccan beliefs and practices be completely avoided so that we as Muslims do not exit the fold of Islam? And fifth, Halloween is a sacred holiday for the Wiccans, the official way of life and religion of those who practice witchcraft. So is this a holiday that people of faith should celebrate alongside Wiccans? And lastly, but not leastly, do you really think that it's cute when people dress their children up to look like devils, witches, ghouls, ghosts, or scary characters? Or is it really demonic and pleasing to the worshippers of Satan? The believers should be proud of their identity, and they should use every opportunity that they get to share Islam with everyone that they come into contact with. Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in the Quran, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِّمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. That what is better than the statement, or who is better than the one that calls to Allah Azza wa Jal and does righteous good deeds and then emphasizes and is proud that he has a Muslim identity. He dresses like a Muslim. He doesn't dress up like a shaitan or demon or ghost. If you dress up, look like the best person to walk the face of the earth, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam. So, brothers and sisters, we must remember that we are fully accountable to Allah for all of our actions and deeds. And let us beware that whoever refuses the messenger's orders, that a trial may befall them, or a grievous punishment may be afflicted upon them. So this is a serious matter, brothers and sisters, and not to be taken lightly. Celebrating Halloween and participating in some of the activities related to it is dangerous and should be avoided. And Allah Azza wa Jal, we ask Him to guide us, to help us stay on the straight path, and save us from all deviations and innovations that may lead us into the fires of hell. May Allah Azza wa Jal aid us to recognize our enemies from amongst the Shayateen and the Jinn. The seen Shayateen from amongst human beings and other creatures, and also the unseen Shayateen and Jinn that we cannot see. So we ask Allah to enable us to recognize our enemies that try to adorn for us misguidance in the forms of glitters, gold, candy, costumes, costume parties, Halloween, and the activities and practices associated with it. So with that, brothers and sisters, we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to bless us, to accept from us. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make it easy for us to be able to educate our families, our children, our communities about Halloween, about the evils associated with this evening, which is coming up next week. And we would like to thank Allah Azza wa Jal first and foremost for giving us the opportunity to be here with all of you this afternoon. And secondly, we would like to thank the Sunnah Initiative for organizing this wonderful conference. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to place it on our scale of good deeds and the scale of good deeds of all those who had a part in putting this together. And Jazakum Allahu khayran wa barakallahu feek. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.